Hello from Anastasia.
Hi, Anastasia.
There's Wendy.
Hey, Wendy. Thanks for joining, everybody. Y'all look beautiful.
Jane.
Hi, everyone from Cameron.
Hey, Cameron.
It's a beautiful backdrop you have there. Lovely day.
Yeah.
It's all virtual. We're really not here at the beach. My feet are really not in the sand. 5 minutes. We'll probably wait like a few more minutes to get started, just to see, we don't start right at 10:45. So feel free to say hi to each other.
Hey, Wendy.
Hi Diana. Hi, Chelsea. Hi, Anastasia. Who else? Oh, that's what I'm seeing on my screen right now. There's
Hi,
more.
Wendy. Oh, that looks good out there.
Hello, everybody. Hello, everyone. Mariela Carmona over here.
Glad you made it.
It's nice to see everyone.
Let's see your face,
We
girl.
can't see your face.
No.
Hi, everyone. Terry from the Athletic Club. Hello, everyone.
Hi, Terry.
Hi. Oh, Pepe's on.
Oh,
Hello,
this
Pepe.
is awesome.
Hey, everybody.
Reminds me of like being there in person. Hey, Pepe.
Good morning.
Hi.
Is that Carlos over there I see in a square?
It is. Hello, everyone. Good to see you.
We needed
Hi,
to hear your
Carlos.
voice, Carlos.
I was taking it all in.
Hey, Ann. You're quiet.
Everybody.
Good to see you.
It's so good to see y'all. This is great.
Oh, so good to see everybody. It's nice to have a little break in the middle of the day, right? I feel like this is the closest we get to actually networking. I don't know about you guys, but I feel like on a lot of Zooms, nobody takes the time to really say hi. So
Yeah.
we always allot for a few minutes just to say hi and, send your virtual hugs.
That's a good point.
Hey, David. Good to see you.
We all just book Zoom back to back.
Yeah.
What's the temperature on the beach there? It's hot in the valley. Where's it? What's it like there?
Really want me to tell you?
Yeah.
Misha
Sorry.
says it's 78 degrees.
Yeah, it's about
Oh,
70
stop it.
It's a little humid, though. A little humid.
Little humid.
More
Hey,
so than
Karen.
We'll probably get started in just another minute. If anybody wants to say any last hellos. Misha, you want to say hi on your voice, or I don't know if you can.
Hey everyone, I'm behind the scenes today, so you'll hear me. You'll hear from me a little bit later.
We have Chelsea hosting the Zoom from her house, and then Misha and Trevor and Scott behind the scenes. All right, I guess we'll get started. So good morning, everybody. Welcome to another virtual TTMA event. This mask is really hard to talk in. I wanted to make sure that you have all enabled speaker view before we start. Thank you to those of you who were able to attend the last 2 virtual events we hosted, and I hope you are all ready for a more uplifting and lighthearted event today, as I feel we all need that right now. As you can see, I'm here on site at Perry's Beach Cafe and Rentals in lovely Santa Monica. Yes, with this 77-degree weather, with Misti Kerns, President and CEO of Santa Monica Travel and Tourism.
Good morning.
We wanted to begin this program as we all should be ensuring ours and others' safety around us by wearing our masks and practicing social distancing. We are sitting more than 6 feet away, so in order to be able to continue to speak clearly without holding my mask away and survive this weather, we will both remove our masks at this time.
Be safe.
These awesome Santa Monica masks. If you need one, can they buy these anywhere?
Yeah, they're at the visitor center.
At the visitor center.
Right on Main.
All right. I was hoping that by today's event, California would have received some good news from the state, but it seems we are still in a holding pattern. It has been very interesting and inspiring seeing what DMOs, hotels, restaurants, and attractions have done to creatively open in a different way over the last couple of months. From local and regional campaigns like SDTA's Stay San Diego campaign, to restaurants taking over sidewalks and parking lots to increase their footprint for outdoor seating, to new pop-ups like the Tulum-inspired rooftop dining at EP and LP, to drive-in movie theaters, to Legoland offering tours through Miniland for all hotel guests. Creativity and innovation is a must during these times. As I said the last two events, and I will say again, we are all in this together, and we want you to know that TTMA is here to support any of our members to the best ability we can. Please don't hesitate to reach out with job postings, job inquiries, or ideas on how we can assist and support you in promoting your business. Thank you to all of our members and guests for joining us today. As it is a tradition, I'd like to begin this program with introductions of all of the attendees. As we have been doing for the last couple of virtual events, we will utilize the chat feature on Zoom to do so. Please feel free to use the chat to say hello to your colleagues, introduce yourself, and share any message that you'd like for the next few minutes. If you are a guest of TTMA or this is your first TTMA event, please let us know as well, and chat away. I can usually mute myself during this time, but take a moment to take a sip of water.
I'm Kevin Wilkerson of pubclub.com.
I don't know if you guys can all hear that music. I don't even know what that was that rode by.
It's a pedicab.
A pedicab. If you're just hopping in, we're utilizing the chat feature to say hello and introduce yourself. And please mute yourself as well and enable speaker view if you have not already.
Not on camera right now. There's a switch on the mic pack to turn it off if you want to.
Oh.
Same thing with
Yeah.
yours. There's a little switch. Just make sure you turn it back on and you see the green light. So
It's like the only time we have to be quiet, yeah. Thank you. Just to let you guys know, this is our first time doing something like this. So be patient with us if we have any technical hiccups or delays. We may stop talking for a moment if we lose sound or get hit by a volleyball coming this way. How's the chat going, Misha? Are people saying hi to each other? All right, awesome. How many attendees do we have? 44, I love it.
I'm telling you, men are as gossipy as anybody.
We get to hear some lovely side
Yeah.
conversation over here on the beach.
Funny.
Sorry you guys are all missing out on that. All right. Thank you guys all for taking a moment to introduce yourselves. Before we start this awesome program that I'm so very much looking forward to, I'd like to acknowledge our TTMA board. Our executive committee members, Kevin Lorton, past president, Diana Elmore, vice president, Carlos Montenegro, co-treasurer, Jerry Harris, co-treasurer, and Lauren Schlau, secretary, as well as all of our other board members and our administrator, Misha Boxer. I'd also like to give a warm welcome to our newest board member, Chelsea Benitez with the Los Angeles Tourism and Convention Board. Hi, Chelsea. You can wave to everybody.
Hi, everyone.
We are so excited to have you as part of our team. I hope you all enjoy our new board photo with our special furry guests. We decided to take a little Zoom photo since it's impossible to get together. And now for our program. Today, I have the pleasure of being in beautiful city of Santa Monica with this amazing view of the Santa Monica Pier, the Pacific Wheel, and the Pacific Ocean, with a woman that I have not only had the pleasure of working with over the years, but I have looked up to as an outstanding leader in our industry. We will be taking the next 45 minutes to get up close and personal with Misti Kerns. And I don't know who was able to join us last year. We had an up close and personal with Ernest Wooden. But it was one of my favorite events. I think we get so caught up in joining webinars that are solely for the purpose of work, whether it's the data that we're all receiving now or strategies on how to recover, that we all need something a little inspiring for a change. So I'm really excited to host this today. And yeah, we're going to begin.
Great, thank you.
So Misti, will you share with us some of your early background, where you were raised, a little bit about your education, and anything else that you'd like to share with us?
Well, I was born in Akron, Ohio, so I'm a Midwestern girl. But I've been in California since I was 19. So I kind of feel like I was raised here. But I am from a smaller town in Akron and grew up, and I think that you know, what sparked my love for travel, I was lucky enough at a very young age to be a part of a traveling group, performing bands and baton twirling and flag twirling, and I got to travel all over the world. I got to go on a cruise. We performed for different kings, and it really sparked an interest for me to realize that there was more that my beautiful little hometown offered, and I moved to California at that point. You know, I didn't have the opportunity, which I regret, to go to college, but I think that the positive side of that for anybody that's out there, regardless of your age or what your background has been, this is an industry that you can do well in. You know, if you are able to roll up your sleeves and find the right people to help you along the way, I hope that I provide some of that inspiration for people that feel like I'll never get to that point because I don't have that college degree in my hand. Again, I recommend the college degree, but not everybody gets that opportunity, and I was one of those individuals.
That's awesome. We might ask you to do some baton twirling later. Are you prepared for that? I don't know.
I don't know. It's been a while.
That's amazing. I love it. So did you have initial career aspirations, or was there sort of like a path that led you to how you got involved with the travel industry?
You know, I think that those of us in this industry, at your core, is you want to take care of people. And I think that that starts at a very early age for most of us. I think if you all look back into your younger years or your first job, I'll bet that it was in a role where you were helping. And for me, it was the same. I was, my cousin and I were the first two female busboys at a local restaurant in Portage Lakes, Ohio. And I started on the restaurant side, worked my way up, managed a pizza shop when I left my hometown and came to California, and was lucky enough. My dad was living in Palm Springs at the time, and I'd been married, and my husband and I moved to Palm Springs, and I started at the bottom at the Canyon Hotel. I'm really dating myself, in Palm Springs, and I started out as a banquet server, only female. I knew no Spanish, so it wasn't easy, but it really taught me what was out there in this industry and how caring and supportive coworkers and people were. I think that this is an industry that people want to see you succeed. They know that if you're offering help and assistance and guidance, that you're in it for the right reasons. And I think that for all of us, that's what sparks it. I really believe that. I think that we want to help, we want to show people a good time and show them opportunity that they may not get on an everyday level.
Yeah. No, there's so much truth that resonates for me as well with that. So I guess you've kind of answered, was the Canyon Hotel your first real job, or did you have any jobs before that?
No, I again started as a bus girl, eventually became a waitress at a restaurant, and then worked my way into a little pizza shop, and ran the pizza shop for about a year before I left, and then moved to California, worked at the Canyon Hotel, also worked the best training of a job I ever had, believe it or not, was at Bob's Big Boy.
I love it.
Found in Palm Canyon in Palm Springs. I worked there part-time and became a shift leader, and just continued to grow, and was lucky enough that there was a Sheraton hotel in Palm Springs at the time. I think it's now a Hilton. And the owner took a liking to me, which helped, and really helped me grow and provided me with some opportunities that I don't know if I would have gotten elsewhere. So I think that, you need to find that person that can see your value. And, if you're aligned in philosophy and viewpoints, hang on to that. Whether that person becomes a mentor or not, they certainly are somebody that can be a guide. And I've had many of those in my career. And the owner of that hotel was one of them. I was one of the youngest managers and one of the only females at a couple of hotels that I've worked in. And they were very supportive and gave me the opportunity to learn and move around. And that really helped me figure out what I didn't want to do in the hotel business, and then really what attracted me on the hotel side. And again, it's hospitality.
Yeah.
Regardless of what position you're in, at the end of the day, it's all the same. If you're a housekeeper, you're taking care of somebody, so when they come back, they feel good about their re-arrival into their room. If you're working at an attraction, you want to see the delight on their faces. And I think that radiates through every level of what we do in this industry.
Yeah, no, that's very true. So you've answered some of my other questions, but you talked a little bit about mentors. And I guess as you look back at your career during this time, who were some of those people other than the individual that you mentioned that played a critical role in your career development and getting you to where you are now?
Well, I will say with all professionalism, it were two very strong women that kicked my ass. And that first one was a woman by the name of Sherry Lavaroni, who I worked for at the Dana Point Resort at the time. And again, she saw in me what I couldn't at the time see in myself, and really pushed me hard and pushed me out of my comfort level in so many different ways. And I'm so thankful for that, because I think that at the time you might feel like someone's being a little hard on you or a little abrupt, but at the end of the day, when you know that they have your best at their heart and that their intentions are for your success, then I think that you have to trust that. You have to trust that they know, and you have to be willing. And Sherry was one of the first females in my career who, when I told her I didn't have a college education, said to me, yeah, but here's what you do have, and here's the experience that you have, and here's the natural abilities that you have, and you are a tough person that can take it. And she was right. She really molded me on the food and beverage side, on the rooms division side. And then when I left there, she had come here to Santa Monica to run the Lowe's Hotel shortly after opening, and had called me and said, why don't you come up? And I said, thanks, but no thanks. She wanted me to come up and do conference service management. And I told her, nope, I was done with that. I wanted to go on to something else, have a little bit more work-family balance in my life. And then she told me about the American film market. And it was about 6 months away of coming to the city. It's a citywide event here. And she got my attention, and I came on a contract, lived at the hotel for about 7.5 months. And I've been here for, good Lord, a couple of decades now. And then after Sherry left, I stayed at Lowe's for a while, had a baby, and decided, okay, I really need to be serious about the work balance in my life. I was working at a hotel, and those of us that run hotels know that it's a 24/7 job. And a position had opened up at the CVB at the time for Director of Sales and Marketing. And Beverly Moore, who is the founder of the CVB here, was probably one of the other most important mentors in my life. And while I don't talk to her enough, and I get so upset that I don't talk to her enough, she taught me so much. And she's not an easy person to work for. I mean, I think all of us that have worked for Bev will say I learned the most from her, but she wasn't the easiest boss. But when I look back now, I'm glad, because again, I think that we all need that guidance. We need that push, and we need somebody to challenge us. When you're not challenged, I know for myself, I get really bored. And I think that that's the best that a boss can do, or a leader or a mentor, is to challenge you, and not in a derogatory way, right? But in a way that gets you inspired and wants you to dig in and figure out what that answer is. And both of them were very willing to do that with me. And I think the most important thing for those of us that are leaders is that they were willing to take a risk on me.
Yeah.
And we have to be willing to take a risk. We have to be willing to let people fail. We have to be there to help them figure it out, not provide the answers, but figure out what failed and then go back at it again until we get it right. And both of them were able to instill that in me in a very strong way that I remember every day. I still hear Bev Moore's voice in my head when I'm frustrated about things. So they did an incredible job. They offered me amazing opportunity, and I am so thankful to both of them. And hopefully I continue to pay that forward to others. I think that's an important part to everyone. You know, if you're able to pay it forward, you get to groom and impact people's lives in ways that you just don't realize in the moment. I mean, those are the rewarding times when you get a card from somebody that you haven't seen or heard from in 4 years that says, I just want to thank you for what you provided me and what you did. Those are the things that keep me inspired and keep me going, and keep you willing to continue to take those risks with people who are willing to be challenged. And you have to be willing.
There's like 5 questions that came to my head. I want to talk about balance of a family life and being a woman leader. But one of the things that I've been wanting to ask, with all that being said, is, you know, could you speak to one of the challenges that you've had throughout this path that really made you leap to another place of growth? Because I feel like you're right. Challenges are, we look at challenges with fear. However, it's all about growth. So could you speak to one specifically that comes to mind?
When I was working in Palm Springs, I was an assistant director. I had been told, because it was a corporation, that there were certain steps that had to be met before you could become a director. And I was probably still 2 years away from that. And not a pleasant story, but out of bad sometimes comes good, right? My boss and the general manager at the hotel were fired, and we were in height of season, and they needed somebody to step in right away, and I was offered the job. And I think that that was one of those times where I knew that if I wasn't successful, my career in that side of the hotel could be over. So it was scary. It was challenging. I had people that had been my peers who were not supportive of me getting the lead job because I was younger and I was female. And that was hard to overcome. But again, I think that it builds within you a little bit of empathy of, you know, it's unfortunate somebody else feels that way, and how to get stronger through that and try not to take those things personal. I think those are the lessons I learned through that. When you're promoted from amongst your peers and other people think that they're more qualified, that can be challenging, especially when you're new in the role.
Yeah.
And it made me stronger. And, you know, I don't know what those 2 individuals went on to do with their lives, but my career flourished from it. And I guess I thank them for putting me in that position where I had to choose the professional path over the friendship path.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hard decisions.
Yeah, they are. I mean, I think, you know, people think leadership, I know, because I've done it as well. You know, you look at your leader and you think, oh, I can do that and I can do it better. We all think that. And if you're a leader and you don't think that your people think that, shame on you. And of course I've done that as well. But I think that leadership, you know, Bev Moore said to me when I was applying for the job, she left to go open the Marina Del Rey Visitors Bureau. And at first I wasn't going to apply for the job. And she said to me, because I'd made a life change, I'd had a baby, I wanted to get out of the hotel side. I thought the CVB side was more manageable. Ha ha ha. I've traveled more on the CVB side than I ever did on the hotel side. But she said to me, it's lonely. It can be a very lonely job because you have to build that trust up and you have to be careful about who you trust with information. And she was right. It can be lonely at times, but At the same time, I think that strong leaders know that and get that that's part of the deal. And if you're feeling lonely and isolated, it's on you to reach out. I mean, you know, you're capable of reaching out just as much as you expect others to. But I think that that's probably one of the more challenging sides. You know, no one can really walk in your shoes the way that you do as that leader.
Right. I love that. I love that. I don't know if all of you guys have a lot of questions brewing in your head. Hang tight to them because we're going to have a Q&A after, but I'm going to go through a few more questions. So let's talk about Santa Monica Travel and Tourism. So you've been working at SMTT since 1994. I got it right. What do you enjoy most about your experience there, as well as your current role as CEO and president?
I know this is going to sound corny, but it's the people. I mean, you know, everybody I think feels a connection to their community. I live here. I've raised my daughter here. I'm invested here. So I do care about this community, and it's the people that are here. You know, we do have a lot of tourists, but, you know, we're I think we're now 90,000 population community. But I mean, just sitting here, I've seen about 10 people go by that are waving that, you know, and it does feel very small townish when you get to know that. And I think that, you know, this is a destination that I've been a part of its growth. I've been able to see it come from the 80s when we had a lot of issues to, you know, what we're able to offer now. It's incredible. I mean, I love being here. I like the product that we have here, the experience and the vibe. You know, we're not, I love Newport Beach, but this is a very different beach experience. It's hard to explain to people. I mean, you've been here and most of you all watching have been here. But I think that is the attraction. It's the people watching and the interaction. I mean, look what we've been sitting here doing all morning, right? I mean, it's amusing and entertaining. And you get to meet all different people from all over the world. Maybe not right now, but typically, I mean, 50% of our visitation is international.
Right.
And what I hear most often from residents is how much they like hearing different languages and the exposure that they get. And, you know, that exchange of culture, I think that that's a really important part. And I think that that is at the heart of Santa Monica. I think that that's what people come here for, is to make that connection.
Yeah, no, that's so true. And, you know, I don't know about you, but one of the things that I love so much just about the industry and travel and tourism is that I always say to people that even though it doesn't pay the best, it's the most genuine industry I've ever worked in. And most everybody on here is my dear friend and colleague. And there's just truth and it feels real and there's some sincerity.
Trust. There's trust. I mean, you'll sit down with somebody you haven't seen for a year and share your innermost secrets and know that they're not going to go anywhere else. And I think that that is what's advantageous about this industry. And again, we all want to help, right? So if you hear that somebody's having an issue, your first thing is, how do I help them, right? I think that goes beyond your work style. And I think that that's why we do have friends that have been in this industry forever that you might see once a year, but it feels like you're together every single day. Yeah, I think that is the fun part of this industry. It certainly is one of the most important to me.
Well, I won't ask you what your innermost secret is to share with us today. All right, we talked about challenges. All right, so how do you motivate your various team members and keep everyone on the same page?
Well, it'd be a better question for them probably, right? You know, I'm not perfect. You know, I'm sure that there are a million things I could be doing different. Hopefully the number one thing is that I give them mutual respect and that I listen to them. And that's hard sometimes because as a leader, right, part of why you're a leader is you're good at making decisions.
Right.
I think that for most of us, I'll speak for myself, that challenge is if that decision is questioned. But my team is very smart and very good at the approach and saying, can we look at it from a different viewpoint? Here's what my thoughts are. And you've got to be willing to listen to that. I mean, you still have to own the vision and you still have to make sure that people understand what the priorities are. And I'm still learning this, but I think that it's allowing them to take the lead and to allow that to happen. And again, I'm still working on that. I think that that's hard for most of us, especially those of us, I'm not going to point at you or anything, that are control freaks. But I'm trying to do better with that. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, I wonder, you definitely did. And yes, I am been working on my control freak for a long time. it's sort of like a natural skill set or prerequisite to being a leader, right?
Yeah.
So do you have a very a specific, I don't know, exercise or something that you do often with your team that you could share with us that?
Yeah, I mean, now in COVID, it's gotten really challenging. Even staff meetings, I mean, it's all awkward, right? I mean, somebody's always on mute. I mean, all of that. And I'm worried about that. In fact, I talked to Kim Sidoriak, our chief marketing officer, and said, what happens with culture now?
Yeah.
I mean, we were very focused on that for the last, I would say, 2 to 3 years. Trying to, because this isn't a super high paying job, right? I think that there are other opportunities that can be offered. One of the things that we do is encourage, working in a hotel, right? When I started working at the CVB, I'll never forget Beth Moore said to me, we had AFM coming in for a lunch meeting. She said, oh, well, all the good restaurants in town. And I laughed and said, I'm not allowed to go outside of my hotel to entertain clients. Like, you were in your hotel restaurants entertaining clients. You don't go out into the community. So one of the things that we try to do is give permission for staff to go out and explore. So, if you can take an extra hour at lunch and go check out a new restaurant and meet who the management is and get the specs for it and bring it back to the team. So in some ways, I think that's motivating because you're not attached to your desk all day. We started doing Wellness Wednesdays where we rotate it by different staff members who organize something either educational or health oriented, or we've gone out and done yoga, we've gone out and done the sound bath, different things like that, just to try to remember why we're here and what's good about this community. And then, yes, I think that from a strategic standpoint, we brainstorm a lot, not in a closed environment. We tend to meet as teams, talk about what the main goal is, and then we will break out into different departments and explore. And I'm a big flip chart person and having things visual. And then we're able to call things down. And I think that what's important about that is the buy-in.
Yeah.
I mean, I can sit and dictate all day long and, have that heavy hand, but what kind of fun is that? I mean, yes, it's a job, but it doesn't mean you have to be miserable. And, your job is a job. You're not going to love your job all of the time. If you like your job most of the time, I think that's great. And then there's aspects that you're going to love. But I think that's the harder part in the generations, is getting people to understand that you may have to do a while to get to the things you love.
Right. And
be willing to do your time, if you will, and invest into it. And I think that we've had very good success in that. The turnover is difficult always. Living in LA is not cheap. I've lost incredibly smart, good people, all of us in tears, because they made a life choice decision. And I respect that, and I have to support that. And those are the people that I know are going to go on to do really, really good things. But it's hard, life balance is hard. And when you've got a job like we do, I'm on all the time, even now. Like, I'm watching what's happening, watching the city doing their things, right? But that's the part of it that I really enjoy. And gosh, look at where we are today.
Right.
And then I think, and no harm, no foul against Midwesterners, but I could be in Cleveland. No, I want to be here. I don't want to be back in the Midwest. So I think that that's a big part of it.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's interesting. You brought up a point that's been sitting with me, I think, for many of us on today's program. May have been feeling this, but our job roles are different, and so we're not in love with our jobs like it used to be. I mean, the thing that I love the most with traveling and getting out and networking and meeting partners and being creative is just not what I do. So during this time of the pandemic and not being able to be in person, and your team members have their job roles morphing to something that may be different, are there things that you do to try to, I don't know, shed some light and bring that positive aspect to their job roles?
Yeah, I mean, I think we try to look for that every day, like everybody, right? I mean, there's only so much negative and doom and gloom we can all take. And, you walk outside and you look around and you go, okay, you can't see this thing that has disrupted our lives, right? So, the fact that it becomes so political is unfortunate. And it's damaging. I mean, you know, LA we're still under major restrictions here. And if we don't all work together, whether you believe in it or not, whether you believe wearing a mask helps or not, we've got to follow the rules at some point. And I think that here we've taken that very serious, even with the positive side. I mean, you know, the campaign, we were able quickly, and hats off to all of the partners, but the city's communication team, we were asked to be part of an economic recovery task force, the chamber's involvement, all of our business improvement district leadership. We've all been meeting twice a week just to talk about communications. And when is the right time to step out and start slowly inviting people back, right? I live here. I understand how residents feel. They are cautious. We need to be that cautious as well, but it doesn't mean it has to be negative.
Right.
So, you know, we're trying to highlight businesses that are continuing to stay open, partnering with the city and the chamber to make sure that people know what help is available to them. Quite frankly, being a therapist, I mean, I talk to business owners 2-3 times a day that some are in tears. They may lose everything. And, you know, trying to spin that around to talk about what could be positive coming out of this is challenging. But I say at the end of it, if you were anywhere else, imagine how much more difficult it would be.
Right.
So, I mean, I think the positive is that we're here.
Yeah.
You know, we're in an incredible place. We will rebound. There's no question in my mind. And it's not going to happen as quickly as anyone anticipated. And we're going to have to be patient about that. And we need to do a good job in taking care of what we have. We got to be clean. We've got to be safe. And those are all positive messages. So I feel lucky about the fact that we have a citywide program called Santa Monica Shines, that our businesses are going through an additional level of awareness with a sensitivity program, you know, talking about what do I do as a server in a restaurant when a customer won't put their mask on to go to the restroom? How do I handle that? How do I handle a peer who keeps her mask on until the boss leaves the room and then takes that mask off? So I think that this is a community that's invested in that. And I think that those positive messages assuring people that we are making it safe for them here and that we care about them. And to your point earlier, being respectful when you're here is what's expected. So sharing the expectations of what we're offering and also the expectations we have of people coming in can be positive. We've got street pole banners that are going up any day now talking about Santa Monica Shines and help us stay open. Wear a mask. Support your local businesses. So I do think that there is positive messaging. I don't think this experience offers a lot of positivity to anybody. I mean, people are dying, right? And we have to take that very seriously. And at the same time, balance what our message points are, because we've got to work to come out of this. Too many other, you know, livelihoods are at stake. Too many businesses are closing and people are out of work. So hospitality is an industry that will rebound and we've got to all work together. And in the meantime, I think the other positive message, and my team adopted this from the get-go, we had to make, as soon as this happened, we laid off the majority of our team. It was probably one of the hardest things I've ever had to do in my career. You know, people that are invested in you and you're invested in them and you're saying to them, you're going to go home today. We think it's temporary. And then having to make that decision of permanently laying them off is heartbreaking. Yeah. But at the same time, it's unfair to mislead. And I felt very strongly about that. And it's going to be a while before we're going to all be able to bring people back. So I think being transparent about that, being empathetic about it, and also trying to help them. I've written so many letters of reference and giving good recommendations because I want them to get employed. I think all of that is positive and moving forward. We can all dig ourselves in a hole and commiserate, right? It's not going to get us anywhere. So I think every day we each have to find one positive thing when you wake up in the morning and when you go to bed at night, and try to share those with other people. And I hope that I'm doing my part in that, but I have my challenges too. You know, business is bad. I've never seen it like this. Not after 9/11, not after different wars we've been in here. Yes, I've been here that long. You know,
romper room.
this is very different. But I do believe that we will overcome this if people can just be respectful of one another in ways that we should be anyway. But I think it underscores it now. And I think that can be done in a positive way. It doesn't have to be confrontational. And we should all be pushing each other up, right? If you're having a bad day, you should be able to call somebody and say, I need a minute of positivity. Give me what you got.
Right.
I think if we were all able to do that, it would help. And I'm constantly before this telling my team, take care of each other more now than ever before. But, you know, and I think the other thing in my field, I tell them it's not worth being stressed about right now. Nothing I'm doing is going to necessarily save somebody's life, right? But I can communicate what we think might. And to me, that's a positive opportunity. And we're going to do it in the best way that we can. And I think all of us have to do that. We're lucky to be where we are, and we're lucky, those of us that are still able to work, to be working. And as I said, we're all doing different roles. My team, Todd, who is our international sales manager, is doing double duty in the marketing team right now and running social media stuff. So we've got to adapt. If you want to keep working, you want to stay positive, and you want to keep yourself motivated, adapt and be willing to try other things. You never know. The thing you thought you would hate might be the love of your life and your profession as you move forward. So I'm grateful to my team because they've been able to allow me to give them other roles that they might not have otherwise. And they've been welcoming to that. And that makes a big difference, and it makes it a much more positive environment.
Right. No, I love that. And it connects to what you talked about earlier about the challenges leading to growth and everything that we're going through and trying to see that light. I don't know if you guys all saw that, but we just had somebody randomly walk through the camera. We've almost been hit by a volleyball. All right, so I want to shift because I know that we want to save time for Q&A, so everybody on who's joined today can ask you questions. But I guess we'll switch to some kind of advice. So you've talked a lot about this, but if you could give any specific piece of advice to the professionals in this room about how to continue to grow in the hospitality field, what would that be?
I think it would be find a guide and find a mentor. And I think that those are not necessarily the same. I have people that I use as guides that are experts in particular areas that I will call and ask. LA Tourism, Adam Burke, who's the new CEO there. We were having a conversation. I knew that they had a work at home policy, called him and said, can you share what you have? And now we've implemented that, and he's shared that with many others. So, you know, I think that type of effort and that sharing of information is more critical now than ever. I forget what your question was completely.
Career advice or advice.
So to me, you know, Adam is a guide, right? Whereas in a mentor, you want to find somebody that respects you, that believes in you, that has honesty, integrity, and ethics, right? That you admire, that you strive to have. I think that, you know, somebody that's really confident is always somebody that you should be talking to. Somebody that is good at inspiring others in very different ways is a good mentor to have. Somebody with emotional intelligence, and you know, people will say, well, what does that really mean? And to me, it means you can read a room, right? You can read the room and the vibe of what's going on, and you're able to have words that matter. And to me, that's what emotional intelligence is, like knowing how to approach something and what to say. And I think that that's really important to have in a mentor, and it's a skill that can be learned by other people. Being transparent. I jokingly call myself Casper. I don't have, those that know me, I don't have a lot to hide. I work in an industry, in a community that wants to know what we're doing. I tell my team, and those of you that have worked for me have heard me say, don't do it if you can't see it on the front page of the newspaper tomorrow. Like that should be our guide for us in every way. I think also finding somebody that has vision and purpose, that they have figured out what their purpose is. I think that those are people that are really good mentors, and oftentimes guides as well. They may not have everything that you're looking for, but they have that one aspect. And then commitment and passion. You know, like I said, liking what you do. If you can find that love all of the time, good for you. But I'm not sure that exists for all of us, but at least like what you do and like the industry that you're in, or get out, because this is one of those industries that we all like to have fun. We all work hard. We all want to respect each other, but you're not going to love it every single day. I think all of us can attest to that. Good communicators, that is the most critical skill that I think people can teach you, and that you can observe and learn from mentors that are good communicators. Accountability. That's one of the things with me in our office is everybody makes a mistake, but be accountable. You know, if you don't have an answer of how to fix it, that's okay too, but come and tell me. I don't like surprises, and I'd much rather hear it from you. And I think that most mentors will say you have to be able to be accountable and hold others accountable as well. And then I think that delegation and empowerment, again, I'm getting better at this. The COVID situation has forced me to do a little bit more of that. So hang in there with me, team. I'm getting there. And then lastly, I think it's being creative and innovative. You know, you don't want to be like everyone else. Like, what can that mentor teach you about standing out or doing things differently, or what I always joke and say, putting on a different pair of glasses to really look at a situation differently. I mean, I think that that's really important from a mentor aspect. So, you know, finding someone that you can trust, somebody that has good ethics, is a good communicator, and the other things, but those are the top 3 things that I would certainly advise people when you're out looking for it. And I think it's important to have that. And a mentor relationship can be ongoing, but you should have probably a 12 to 18 month plan would be my recommendation. You know, after you've observed somebody and you think, gosh, I love how that person does blank, talk to them, compliment them, and let them know, and then ask them, would you have time to spend with me? Because they're going to have to make that commitment to you. And if they're not willing, move on, because it won't do you any good. And if you've got somebody invested, sit down and put the time in and create that 12 to 18 month skill level of what you want to learn. What do I need to know more about now? Because I think everybody's always so focused on the future,
Right.
you forget, I got to master me now.
Right.
And then build that up. And I think that a 12 to 18 month plan, that's very doable.
I love that. I think you're reading my mind, because all these questions I have, I was going to ask you for the shy people out there, because that's not me, is how do you approach somebody? But you said compliment and just ask. So one of the things you and I had talked about the other day when we chatted briefly was your perspective on networking, especially even during this time. Can you shed some light on kind of your perspective and the importance, and maybe give some feedback on how you would go about that during a time like this?
Yeah, I'm going to do a then and now.
Okay.
And we actually, at a couple of our staff meetings, my team is expected to be out in the community, whether it's a mixer, whether it's an educational component of our partners, of our hotels. And I didn't realize how uncomfortable some people were. So we actually have done some training sessions where we role played. I think that it's good if you don't have somebody to role play with, you can do it visually in your head. None of us, including me, like walking into a room where you don't know anybody and having to walk up and do that icebreaker.
Right.
But you got to get over it. You've got to just get in there and walk up to somebody and introduce yourself and just add yourself to the group. And I think that that's the first thing. And I think it's the same thing with Zoom these days. You, more now than ever, you can initiate that conversation. You can send somebody a Zoom invite that you might not otherwise feel comfortable going out for a drink with, right? Because what I have found with Zoom, things are shorter. So where I might ask somebody, let's go have lunch or let's go have a cocktail, I'm committing a full hour to that social engagement, right? And not that I don't want to, but with Zoom, you're not going to do that.
Right.
You're going to say, can I get 15 or 20 minutes of your time? And what I have found is you're getting more quality out of that conversation, especially when you're talking to busy people. You know, I mean, the unfortunate thing with Zoom right now is that you can book Zoom back to back, back to back.
Yeah.
And I have
Good at
found
that.
myself in that hole where you're like, oh my gosh, like I don't even have time to get up and go get something to drink. Right. So we're more in control of our social lives now, I feel, than we were before, where you were thrust into a room. You now can start small. You can pick your room and grow that comfort level. So if I'm somebody and I'm a director of sales somewhere, I would be reaching out to my counterparts and saying, hey, why don't we do a virtual happy hour? I've done a couple of those with friends, as far as, you know, Nan at US Travel and Kathy at LA Tourism. And, you know, we all got together and, you know, it was awkward at first, but then midway through, it was just like we were all together. You know, I mean, so I think that now you have to take advantage of that. And to me, now is actually a really good time where you're going to get someone's full attention.
Yeah.
So if you have someone that you would love to learn more from, now is a great time to reach out and say, I know how busy you are, but if you can spare 15 to 20 minutes for me on Zoom, I would love just to have a conversation about professionalism and mentorship. I think you're going to get more interest from people. So I think Zoom can work to that benefit.
Yeah.
I don't like it. I'm done with it.
You know,
I'm so over Zoom.
It's funny because I struggle now. I feel like all of my meetings that would have been phone calls are all Zoom and video calls. And for most of you guys on there that know, I dress up for this, but every time I'm on a Zoom at home, I'm like in my tank top and leggings because I'm not going to dress up every day. But what is your perspectives on the importance of Zoom versus a phone call now? Do you think there is importance of that, or?
Well, here's what I'll say. And there have been days that I don't go on camera as well for meetings. But if you're on Zoom and it's work related, you got to look professional at some level. It doesn't mean you have to have a suit on, right? But I think you have to be careful about that. On a phone call, not so much. And I think that when you're calling someone, that's the option you give them. Would you either be willing to take a call or would you like to do Zoom? Because if it's me and I'm getting that request and I don't know the person very well, I would much rather, I'm a people person. I would much rather be able to see their face and read their body language and really understand what it is they need. And I don't know how much of that you can really grab from the phone. But I think either one is optional. And I think it's important to keep those relationships going. I mean, I've heard a lot of people say it's so hard, I'm not really talking to anybody. And my first thing is, why?
Right.
Clients still need to hear from you, even if it's, we don't know.
Right.
It's just reaching out and touching base with them or sending a postcard just so they know that you're thinking about them. That will matter when this is over. And I think those that are investing in those relationships, new and old, those are the ones that are going to succeed through this because those are the ones you'll remember.
Yeah. I love the postcard. I had a mentor one time tell me about the importance of sending a thank you card or a handwritten note.
Yep.
It's this old school personal mentality that we've lost so much, especially nowadays. And so I think there's a real importance to that. So I
can't agree more. Jonathan Tish that owns Lowe's Hotels taught me that.
Yeah.
And still to this day, I will get a note from him every once in a while, handwritten.
I love it.
It's really important. And I tell my team that all the time. They cringe because it's such a digital world. And I'm like, nope, handwrite it. It will not kill you.
I mean, I have like a box of letters I kept it from college because when we used to write letters. So.
Well, it shows that somebody took the time. I mean, you know, you send an email, it's like, okay. But like if I went out and purchased something for you, I spent the time, you know, to do something, then yeah, be courteous and send me a little handwritten note back. Those that do them after interviews, I'm sure those of you on the phone will say that when you wrote the note of thank you, you probably got the job or you were at least at the top of that job because it shows that level of commitment that I care and I'm willing to take the extra time. We can all send a quick email. It's just impersonal.
I love that. And I think that's really important now because unfortunately a lot of people in our industry are out of work. And I know the job market is, you know, it's tough right now for anybody
very
looking.
tough.
So how do you stand out? That's a great tip.
Yeah. Well, and I think, you know, even if you don't have the relationship and there isn't a job opening now, it doesn't hurt you to reach out and start that conversation. You know, I mean, many of us have had to lay off our teams when it's time to rehire. Hopefully they have found work, right? So I might not be able to get a lot of my team back and we'll be looking for other people. So if you're stagnant at home and you're not having conversations or sending somebody a note once in a while, or, you know, if you see an article about somebody, clip it out. Those little things matter and they're memorable. And yes, both of my mentors felt very strongly about that as well. And I've continued that path.
I love that, the things that stick.
Yep.
So I don't know how much time we have because I don't have a watch, which I love. I love that I'm not. But I wanted to just ask you some random personal questions because I always think this is fun. But so do you have any random hobbies that none of us would know about that keep you happy, especially throughout this time?
Oh my gosh, random hobbies. Well, is like collecting Wizard of Oz stuff a hobby?
Yeah, of course. Okay. And something that I think I would never know about
movie of all time, and I've got boxes and boxes of stuff of Wizard of Oz. And, you know, I mean, I think that other stuff that I like to do is just stuff that we do here, you know, going to the beach and getting outside and that type of thing. Other than that, not tons. Family. I have a niece and a nephew. They're, you know, 2 and 1, and they are the light of my life right now. And my daughter, she's kind of my hobby. But I think family, I mean, I know that's not probably the right thing to say, but for me, I've got to schedule that time. Yeah. And to me, that becomes part of that hobby, and just relaxing sometimes and not doing anything. And I think that's really important, and it's okay. I mean, when this happened, I think that for many of us, I know for me, I mean, I was working too many hours. I mean, and not sleeping, and you know, you felt that urgent need to get everything done right now. Mm-hmm. And through this, I think that one of the things I've learned is what is important. And family is not going to go away, and your friends and the relationships that you have matter. And I think that if anything, this should give us that pause to recognize that and figure out, and this will be the harder thing, I think, for most of us, how do you continue that when things start to get back to the new normal? How do you continue to have that divide? Because we're going to be really pushed. When things start picking up and people are expecting bookings again and that type of thing, everybody's going to have that pressure back on. And I think it's going to be really important to figure out, how do I continue the breaks that I've tried to work into my life by working from home?
Yeah, because we had to make so many changes so quickly. How do we go back?
Yeah.
You know, I think about that a lot too. I won't tangent onto my thought process on that. If any of you are curious, you can call me anytime. I love that. I love that. Okay, so one last question, and then we're going to get to your questions. So you talked a little bit earlier about sort of thinking about something positive at the beginning of the day and the end of the day. And I have this sort of like daily routine I do in my weird meditations, but curious if you have anything that you do daily or weekly or whenever that has been helpful for you during this time that you could share with our
My first thing is, my daughter always cringes, is music. I mean, the first thing I do when I get up in the morning is I turn on music, and I try to listen to upbeat, motivating music. That's the very first thing that I do. And then the other thing that I try to do is think about what I'm lucky enough to have versus what I don't have. So I'm lucky enough to live here. I've got a job. You know, we all may not be making the same wages for a while, but we're employed. And that alone is a positive motivator for me, that it gives me a minute to think that, okay, how can you sigh about having to go do X, Y, Z when you're working? Right. And I try to remind my team of that, you know, that, yeah, some of this stuff is daunting. It's hard to keep a list of businesses that are closing. You know, it's not motivating. It's scary, and you have no control. So that's difficult. So I think that, you know, playing music for me, thinking about what is a positive aspect that I have in my life. I'm healthy. Like, I don't have any health issues, you know, thank God. Those types of things, the little things matter. And this has reminded me of that more than ever before. Because I think before we were all busy and you'd whine about what you didn't have and what you weren't able to go do, right? Now you're not able to go do much of anything. Right. So your home has become your sanctuary. I have cleaned and purged like nobody's business. I've donated so much clothes to Chrysalis. If you guys are doing that, Chrysalis is a local organization here that helps people transition and get back into the workforce. They're always looking for professional clothes. I donated, I think, 13 bags last week. So, you know, doing stuff like that, I think is motivating and keeps me in a positive way. And then I try to have a conversation with someone that I know is going to be positive. That's on my list every day, and it rotates. I have about 10 people in my life that no matter what's going on, they're that positive person, and I try to make sure I connect with them at least once a day, either email or a joke or something.
I love that.
So for me, I think it's pretty simple things that we should all recognize, and it's okay to be positive when things are so bad. Yeah. I think you have to give yourself permission at some level too.
Oh, wow. I so needed this today. I don't know about you guys. I feel super inspired and uplifted and ready to implement a lot of this. So I'd love to pause and allow for time for Q&A. So if you have a question, you can submit it through the chat. And Misha will be asking the questions like the voice of God so that Misti can answer. We'll take probably about 10 15 minutes to do that before we wrap up. So yeah, go ahead with your question. Yeah. Gives us time to take a sip of water.
Yeah. It's getting warm now.
Yeah, I know. I was just thinking how my arm is sort of in the sun.
The truck
I
drivers,
have
yeah.
these little flip-flops on that I got at one of the SMTT summits. I think it was like
Good.
2 years ago. We used to always have it
Yep.
at the beach club,
Yep.
which was my favorite thing about a Santa Monica event.
Yeah.
Okay, Misha has a question.
All right, so we have our first question from Bev Moore, who wants to know who your favorite boss was.
I will say that it was you, Bev Moore. You pushed me harder, but also reward me the most of anyone. So I cannot thank you enough. And I know that there are other people out there that feel the very same way.
I love that Bev joined us.
That's great. Love that, Bev Moore.
Anyone else have any questions? Feel free to put them into the group chat and we'll ask them for you.
Are there any questions they can ask?
Yeah. I don't have very much to hide.
She said she's Casper.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right, Lauren Schlau wants to know who your favorite research
I knew she
consultant
was going to say that.
Is everybody trying to get a shout out?
Well, as I always say, and this is how old Bev Moore and Lauren Schlau and I are, is that Lauren started doing research for the CVB in the early 80s when it was hand typed, like it still has white out on them. And between the two of them, they forced me to understand research. When I first started working there, I said, I don't need research. I'm a marketing person, right? Now I don't do anything without the research. So another thing that they instilled in me.
All right, we have one from Elizabeth King who would like to know what is your favorite campaign that SMTT has done? She says, thank you for your helpful tips for those of us who have lost our jobs. Do you have any other recommendations? So it's a two-parter.
Gosh, favorite campaigns. Again, this is going to sound corny. I like our extra bedroom campaign that the Bureau started years ago with a travel agency campaign that we have morphed over the years into a locals campaign that if you're a local, you get discounted hotel room rates. And the nice thing about that is that we start getting calls now from local residents who are excited about the campaign. So I know they don't hate tourism as much as some of them will say, and take advantage and get out and explore and, are kind of that visitor in our own area. So I think that's probably one of my favorites just because it's lived on for so long. And then the other question, Elizabeth, it's good to hear from you. Just keep networking. Keep looking, even if it's a field that you're not sure you want to be in. Learn about it. Talk to somebody that's doing that job. I think all of us in this industry, again, are willing to help. You just have to ask. And I would just keep doing that. Keep talking to people and reaching out. Stay in touch.
Are you available, Misty, for anybody that may want to connect with you personally after this?
Always. mkerns@santamonica.com is the email.
Awesome. All right, our next question comes from Wendy Keel. She says that there's lots of talk about the new normal, but there hasn't been much of a definition of what that is. So she wants to know what the new normal means to you.
I think that it means adapting for sure. And what we knew is going to change. I mean, I think that the experience of traveling has changed for good. And not necessarily in a totally negative way. I mean, what comes to mind for me is after 9/11. Remember how we all said, oh my gosh, taking your shoes off and all of the little things that were implemented that now are just the norm.
Right.
And I think that it's going to be like that with this. And, as we move into flu season, I think the one thing that we have realized and we've adjusted our campaigns to support it is we're going to be wearing masks for months. So I think that's one of the things that we all just have to realize, that even if it's not all of the time, there are going to be times, and that you've got to adapt. Businesses that are just closed and think that they can reopen as they were will not succeed. And those that are open and adapting every single day have a better chance of succeeding. And you're going to have to be reinventing what you do. You know, I mean, our cities, and I'm very proud of them for extending this outdoor dining, but it should not be confused with the fact that they're just surviving.
Yeah.
They're certainly not succeeding. They're basically just surviving and keeping a few people employed. So that type of stuff is going to have to change. I think ordinances will have to change in different cities. You know, most of the outdoor dining throughout everywhere is on a temporary basis. I think that those things are going to have to be looked at. I think that cities are going to have to work closer with businesses than ever before and really hear what they need versus telling them what they can't have. And if we don't have leaders that listen, we're in for a bad run here. And I think that it's on each one of us to make sure that you're communicating, whether as a resident you're communicating to leadership or as a person that's employed, letting them know what you need. So the new normal, gosh, I wish that I knew, but I think that, you know, going into a hotel and having a mini bar and a lot of those little things that we all like to have, I think those days are going to be gone for quite some time. And I think that cleanliness and being safe are going to continue. I think that there was concern about that prior. I mean, remember all the shows they would show, you know, under a blue light in a hotel room or in a restaurant. I think that type of stuff is going to stay with us for a long time. I think most of us are going to continue to be cautious. I'm a bit of a germphobe. People that have traveled with me know I always have my wipes even before this happened. But I think that type of stuff will continue. And I think it's important that it's supported in the roles that we all have in continuing to put those messages out. So I don't know if that answers the question. I do believe that, you know, the most fit are going to survive, and it's going to be tough. And we're not even through this yet. We're just at the tip of it.
Right.
That's what scares me about what's new and what's going to happen in the future.
All right, so moving on to our next one. It's another two-parter for you from Diana Elmore. She says, do you think that DMOs will change the way that they do business moving forward, meaning focus on staycations and move focus to locals and domestic drive markets versus international travel? And second part, which international markets do you think will bounce back first?
On the first one, I think that most of us in the DMO world have become more important and adapted in your local communities. I know here we have been helping lead this campaign. We've been championing a lot of efforts, including things that we normally don't get into. You know, normally we work through the chamber, as an example, in ordinance changes. We have been front and center through this, and I see that continuing. I don't think that there's any way around that. So most of us would say that, you know, we try not to get into the politics. I think that that's gone. I think that we each have to figure out what role are we willing to play and what role will be accepted for us to play in. I think that those are going to be really important. And yes, you know, most of us, I mean, here as well, we have a citywide campaign going on that the city is funded, where we have signage for businesses, you know, clings to go on the floors, yard signs for residents, you know, about wearing a mask and social distancing and that type of thing. And we inserted ourselves in the middle of that, and we're the distribution point at our visitor center. So we've got more locals coming in than we've ever had before. And not all of them are against tourism. And most of them have come in and expressed support for us and saying, boy, we get it. We thought before that tourism really helped fuel our economy, but we now understand how much it does. And I think that's opened a door for all of us in the DMO world to really speak directly to the residents that you don't always have. And right now, yes, they are your best customer here too. The drive market and that type of thing will continue. The bad part about that is we're all going to be like piranhas after the same customers in California and in those drive markets. We're collaborating more than we ever have before. All of the DMOs in LA are working together on a campaign that will be launching at the end of the month. So that type of thing is good. And I think that that is the change that we're going to see. How much more versatile can you be in your local community, because that support will carry us for a very, very long way. And I have forgotten the second part. Did I answer the second
international, which markets do you
part?
think will bounce back?
I wish I knew that. But if I were at a betting table, I think China is going to be a while, and I think that it's unfortunate and very political. I do think that if the UK, from a financial standpoint, starts doing a little bit better, the UK has been after everything. I mean, those of you that remember 9/11 or any bus explosions that happened here in the US, they are always the first to travel. They call themselves a hardy bunch. And I think and I hope that that's one of the markets that we'll see come back first. And then I think we'll see Australia come back. And I don't know about the others yet. I think that that's, you know, it's not just the politics, it's also the world economy. And there's so much unanswered right now. I'd like to ask Wendy Keel and Lauren Schlau that question, though, if they're still there. Maybe they can answer.
Well, if you missed last month's event, we have a recording. We can send it. Wendy Keel gave us the
that's
pleasure.
Right. That's right. I did see that.
I love that. Do we have time, Isha, for another question, or? Okay, perfect.
So the next question is from Erin, and she would like to know, with all of the qualified candidates looking for jobs in hospitality right now, when do you feel people are going to start hiring again? And what kinds of things will set a candidate apart?
I think communication is going to set you apart. Again, I would not be shy about reaching out to people that you think you want to work for. If they have a position or not, letting them know of your interest and that you exist is really important. And then I think that, like I said before, you may have to look for something that isn't exactly what you want right now, but is going to help you develop a skill that will get you to that dream job. So if you're in sales and you can't find a sales job right now, I will say, and don't cringe, waitressing is one of the best. It definitely helped me be a better salesperson, because you are dealing with people in an arena of very particular about what they want, how they want it delivered, how they want it handled. So don't be afraid to take a job that you feel that you might be overqualified for if there's a skill set in there that you can learn and grow from. And right now, I think that's what we all have to do. You've got to work. I would be getting into a field that you know might have some growth, or, you know, most people, I think, stay at jobs only 2 years, it seems, anymore. Have a 2-year goal and try to work towards that. As far as hiring, God, I wish I knew the answer to that. You know, for us, we had thought that it might be, you know, next 2021, spring into summer, but forecast isn't looking too good right now. And I think that what's going to determine all of that is the availability of a vaccine. And if that's able to happen in the first quarter of next year, we might, by this time next year, start to be in a position where some of us can rehire. In LA, we're still not allowed to have meetings or gatherings at all. So I don't know when that's going to happen. And from what I understand, it's not very high priority on the governor's list of things to change. So that's going to have a very determining factor too for all of us. I mean, most of us that are in this business reliant upon some level of group travel in what we do. And I think that's going to be the harder thing for us to get over.
Are those all the questions? Yeah. I don't know if that was Erin Devaney. If it was, hi.
Hi.
Well, thank you, Misty.
Thank
This
you.
has been incredible. Thank you for taking the time to open up personally, share your story with us, give the time to all of our attendees, members, and guests. I wanted to give a big thank you to Perry's Beach Cafe and Rentals for hosting us today. Woo!
You can come down and have this set up any day, and they bring everything to you. You just walk out.
It's called Beach Butler. If you've never done it, you have to do it. We see people right now enjoying it. They have bike rentals, skate rentals. They are open and available. Support your community. A huge, huge shout out to T-Rev Productions for setting up the AV. If you guys don't know Trevor, he joined our board, I think last year. No, baby, the beginning of this year. I have no concept of time. He's amazing. If you guys need any AV setup, I know that I was gonna hire him to set up a screen in my backyard for movie night for my daughter's birthday, and he does everything. So please feel free to reach out to him on our board. We love supporting our board members. And of course, thank you to all of our members, guests, and first-time attendees for taking the time out of your day to join us. We hope that you enjoyed this event. Again, I felt it was really good timing. I know I needed something that was lighthearted and inspiring. And, you know, as Misty shared earlier, I think it is important to take time out of your day, even if you feel you don't have it, for positive reinforcement and just to take a break from whatever your nuance is. As always, if you have any additional questions or comments at any time, please feel free to reach out to us. Visit our website, ttma.org, or email myself or Misha. We'd love to hear from you anytime. And I wanted to end, which is funny because we talked a lot about this, with this quote of, in the middle of difficulty lies opportunity. As you can see this photo of outdoor dining in Laguna Beach. And I talked about this briefly at the beginning. It is really about getting creative, getting in a different mindset, and being able to shift and figure out, how do we climb out of this? Where is the opportunity? Where is this growth? So I just wanted to end with that. And I don't know if you have any closing words.
TTMA has done a great job of that. So good for you guys. I mean, keeping things going and keeping connected is so important. So congratulations.
Thank you.
And thank you for having me. And I hope you'll all come out and take advantage of the beach. We need your business, please.
If you guys want to unmute yourself and say goodbye to each other, we won't kick you off. You guys can do that this time. We love personal interaction. Or say bye to Misty.
Amazing job, Misty, Sarah, Michelle, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks for coming,
Hey,
you guys.
everybody. Thank you, Misty, Sarah.
Thank you, Misty and Sarah.